Yo, 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 ladies and gentlemen, what's up, Kenji's World, bing! Thank you so much for joining me, guys. Welcome back. My apologies for missing yesterday. Things were happening. I didn't have Friday either because I was on set, so my apologies. Had a great day back on set doing the acting thing. A couple of revelations that I'd love to share with that. Our crypto prices are looking stable, nothing wild to talk about at the moment, but I'm sure they will fluctuate in the coming months. Revelations on set. What I really like about the nature of performing is it's kind of reverse engineering the process of how our human engagements happen, because we have our human engagements and then we reflect upon it. But because in the acting world we're doing a pre-written human engagement that then now has to be acted out to become as real as possible. And then, so you have to start to deconstruct what makes life real. What are the real triggers? What are these things that bring about the high stakes? It brings about a deeper relationship. What makes relationships deep is a deeper vested interest in the relationship, knowing more about it. There's so many subconscious triggers that we have going on that creates depth in our relationships. And I was really trying to figure this out as I was going along. I have a performance, this drone operator in this TV series, like there's military drones. And I was doing the lines, practicing my lines, and I was trying to figure out how to create or raise the stakes, as we say. Because you don't really want to watch something that just looks boring. You want to see people fighting for something, right? Really striving for something. And so I was trying to take upon the position of what's my responsibility here as an individual flying a drone. What does it mean for me to be taking on this responsibility? What's my background? How long have I been doing it for? What does this job mean to me? How did I get here? There's all these things that build in and build up, and they're things that we have daily in our lives. But it really still was vague as to what I was fighting for, because there's this, I can't really spoil it, but something that I needed to prevent, a dangerous occurrence. And what I did was, on the other side of this dangerous thing that was happening, I put a loved one. I put a loved one there, and that helped me raise the stakes for what I was fighting for. Right? It was a singular point of attention. Every so often I got lost. All I did was remind myself what I was fighting for. And it was this loved one at the point of danger that I was like, okay, I don't need to save the world. I just need to save one person. And this is an as above, so below moment, I guess, for me, of the nature of focus. What is the focus day to day? What are we trying to achieve? There's 10,000 things that we're doing. We got family. If you got family, you got work, you got responsibilities, you got things about your personal life you have to deal with, finances, taxes, cleaning, cooking, all this sort of stuff. But fundamentally, is there something that ties all these things together? My question to you, do you feel like there's something tying all these things together? Energetically or philosophically, something for you? My brother is going into a managerial position. He is in a managerial position, for his salon at the moment. And this is a question that he's obviously going through as well. And we were trying to discuss, deconstruct, and have a concise language for him, because he's obviously going into a new role, not stepping away, but he's a process professional of haircutting, coloring, etc. I think he's more a professional of cutting than he is coloring, but he's good at it. But now he's going into a people role, people managing or running a team. Managing is it's like acting. Managing is a certain word used for a function, but is that the right word? And so there's a whole lot of new responsibilities, so many more things that you have to deal with, so many more things you have to start to consider. It's very overwhelming. It's like when you have revelation about life at the beginning. It's like, so much knowledge, so much information. Sorry if that just peaked, but it's very overwhelming. It can be frustrating, it can be challenging, and it can be a little bit debilitating if you have no central structure to be able to pin that to and have a through line. And what we got to, fundamentally, was my job is to make this team successful. Right? That's his mission. And for this week, this was what he came up with, was what are opportunities for me to be of aid, right? How can he be of assistance to this team so that his team can be successful? And that can be broken down in so many different factors, right? What is success? What is leading someone to success? Is it leveraging their skills, leveraging their genius zone, leveraging what they're good at, which means you need to be observant of what you're good at. You need to be taking in the whole environment. If you want to lead the team to success, you need to know what are the strengths of each individual team member. How are they developing their skills? How are they implementing their skills? How is their customer engagement? How is the relationships? How do they build relationships? How do they maintain relationships? See, there's so many factors to look into. But if you're only looking at it from a single lens of my job is to make this team successful, and his question that he made for himself of what are the opportunities for me to be of aid? These two beautiful things, and this is going to continue to evolve for this week, but this is a metaphor or a correlation to the principle of what I'm discussing of a single point of focus to get you through. In this performance, I needed a single point of focus of attention, because if I'm focusing on so many things, then I'm going to be too skewed everywhere. And I'm not saying performance is amazing or anything like that. That's not the point. My performance is just what it is. People like it, people don't like it. I like it, I don't like it, whatever. But the focal point that can make it easier, obviously having the relationship is important. So the relationship is what people watch for. But if it's just relationship without destination, then there's no real joy or entertainment or stakes or what they're fighting for. If there's relationship, that's great, you're invested in that. But if it's not going anywhere, then you'll get to a point of, well, what am I watching it for? But if it's just going somewhere in terms of individuals continuously going on their own adventures, but there's no relationship being built at all, like not at all, then you're not feeling the connectedness, you're not feeling anyone striving for something. It's just all to achieve some sort of gain, which in a sense still has relationships. So relationship is there, and this is the nature of acknowledging that which exists already instead of creating something. This is why script analysis is understanding what's going on, what are you fighting for. And I think in my personal life as well, it's been a huge thing of, sure, there's so many things I want to do, but what do I also innately do deeply, something that I can't ever step away from? That's something I continue to hone no matter what. And this is that self-development pathway for me, a continual understanding of how to grow as an individual, as a human being. It's always coming down to that fundamental layer of how do I continue to improve every single day. And this is a medium for it. Kenji's World is a medium, so thank you so much for watching, for joining. My job is a medium for it. My exercise is a medium for it, for me to express in different avenues, to grow in different fields. Art is a place of self-expression. Skateboarding is not only self-expression, but it's physical movement and mobility. Kung Fu is to really hone that mobility, to get it down to a clean T. So my running is to implement that. I'd like to get to a boxing gym one day. You can tell I do so many things, and I can be overwhelming for myself as well. And I need to learn to say no. It's a very powerful thing. I think this is also an energy I'm feeling right now, is this learning to put things aside. Pretty strong no's sometimes. I say yes to so many things, and I'm saying maybe to a lot of things, and a maybe is dangerous because a maybe causes a leak in the energetic system. A maybe is exactly what I just said. You're leaking energy. Potentially, maybe I'll do it. I'm not saying don't do maybes, right? I'm not saying maybe is not an option, but maybe is a compartment of its own. I'm just spitballing, just talking shit out of my brain right now. But right now, I'm personally in a place where I'm trying to be more yes and no, yes and no. I will or I won't. And some things are a maybe, but it's a yes, but I will maybe discover, or I'll try and delve deeper into it later. It's still in the yes column. I haven't conducted it into a no, but it requires more understanding and requires more delving into breaking it apart, understanding what that thing is that I want to do and what that looks like in my life. because I can tell there's just so much happening. I just need to regulate. I need to make sure I'm sitting on my structure, I'm breathing properly, utilizing my breath. And the nature of, this is another thing for me, is there's a lot of pain still in my body. There's a lot of uncomfortability, unsettled things. And I've discussed this in previous episodes. But the unsettling and the uncomfortable can be quite an experience. It can be an intense experience and a sensation inside of your body. But the usual methodology of the mind seems to be to pay attention to the loudest sound inside of your body. But usually when you do, I notice that it amplifies that painful, loud sound, because that's what you're paying attention to. Because it's loud, that's what you need to be paying attention to. But realistically, what I'm finding out more and more, and experientially more than logically, because logically I understand it, but experientially is a different thing. To experientially sit there and recognize that is a feeling, that is a sensation. I understand it's a pain, I understand it's a difficulty, I understand it's a challenge, but I don't think by paying it even more attention than that it is asking for of its own accord, that I'm going to do any justice. So if I can calm down and start to see the other parts of my body, the other bits that are not screaming but are still alive and are still doing things, there's other parts of myself that still need attention, that require myself, my mind, my focus. And if I start to put the attention there into other section, then that loud noise tends to die down. It starts to slowly settle down, and that's a consequence of treating myself as a whole instead of separate. It's very easy for the mine also, I'm not saying it's everyone, but it's very easy for the mind to segregate, isolate certain things and deal with them independently. Not saying that's not appropriate at certain times or functions. It's like training. Every so often you'll train your biceps, train your back, and all this sort of stuff, but fundamentally you kind of want to be training your whole body all the time. Now that's not going to make sense to a lot of people. Everyone's going to be like, no, you're wrong. I'm coming from a very different lens, and I'm not even going to bother explaining myself in terms of an animal is always using so many different parts of its body. But yes, a lot of the times it may be using its legs more, it might be using its back more, depending on certain positions. So yes, there are ways that isolated exercise can happen, but ideally you want to be connected and using your body as a whole. Blah 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 blah. Long story short, Kenji's not going to go there. But what I meant to say was, full story, long story short, coming around to a single point of focus. Single point of focus is that for myself, treating myself as a whole, so that individual parts and parcels of myself, good, bad, loud, small, angry, happy, all that is being dealt with as a whole. And the whole experience that I'm a part of, the situation, the circumstance that I'm a part of, I'm trying to engage with that whole sphere as a whole. And yes, that is challenging to try and let that world in, to feel it, but not let it overwhelm you or overthrow you. This is the hugest thing, not to overthrow you. It's tough. There's so much energy in and around myself, and I can tell there's still boundaries where I'm holding. And that's fine, because you can't just open the floodgates. It's like what's going on with Europe and France and all these things. They're just letting in immigrants come across the border and just letting anybody in, and all of a sudden they've just got cities that are super overwhelmed by refugees, and the people that are living in those areas are struggling to assimilate, to find work. And I'm not saying don't let people in, I'm just saying a process is nice. A standardized process is nice. If you just open the floodgates, it's pretty intense and it's gonna wreak havoc. And not saying you can't find balance from there. I'm just saying when you're opening those doors, just be mindful of how much you're opening. Be mindful of your circumstance, situation. I'm talking about an as above so relationship here, of internally, by opening those floodgates to the sensations and experiences of the world beyond. And yes, this whole, there's an inside outside, you're creating duality. I'm like, well, there is duality under the banner of unity, right? Unity splits into two, and this is the paradox of man. We are connected to divine, to a whole structure, yet we can understand the principle of two. That two came from one, and one came from none. The strangest thing that you could ever understand. But to me, that's the truth. And so, how to understand that? Well, experientially, to me, you can understand it logically, but certain points of energetic breaching and certain personal discovery can only happen experientially, and it's pretty full on. So really be mindful of how much you open those floodgates, how to open those floodgates. Yes, there's a way to do it. Yes, you have to understand how that works. I'm not going to get into that now. Maybe that's a good conversation for tomorrow. I'll review this and we can talk about that. But for now, it's just coming back to single point of focus. My Kung Fu teacher is always reminding me of single point of focus, Kenji. Just focus. Everything that's going wrong in your life is a lack of focus. And at the beginning, I'm like, fucking just throwing it all under one banner. How could you? And after a while, I'm like, well, seems like my suffering in this moment is because I'm focusing on other things and not just the one thing I need to focus on. Yes, I got a billion things to deal with, but one at a time. Focus on this wholeheartedly, nothing else. The next thing, wholeheartedly, nothing else. The next thing, wholeheartedly, nothing else. I'm not saying I'm doing that all the time. I'm trying to. My mind still wavers, but when it wavers, that's when I usually can tell the suffering happens. And suffering is a non-acceptance of that which is, seeking something beyond the experience of our moment, but it's seeking to relieve a pain that we feel now. And I feel the pain we feel now is merely an arising of essences within to seek further understanding, clarification, so it can be assimilated, symbiosis, or purging, either or, good, bad, negative, whatever it may be. But it's not going to happen if you're constantly disassociating from it, if you're divided within. You kind of have to connect to yourself. I know it fucking is painful. I'm sure you're going through it right now, so many changes in your life. But it's come with so many gifts. Every time the gifts keep on coming. So those are the reminders of stay with the gifts, stay with the goodness. Remind yourself every single time, and that usually comes with the recognition. Then the recognition comes from a slowing down. And I rush a lot in my own life. I miss those moments. And it sucks when I miss those moments because I'm aching for the next moment more than being here. So that slowing down process is ever so crucial. Just keep slowing down. Come back to the simple things. I won't take up too much more of your time, but those that have joined me, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Kenji's word, you know how it is. Be love, have love, love. And do all the loving things for you and your family, you and your loved ones, and just love it. Love it.